Deputy Kenny.
Apologies, Chairman, I have to leave for another.
Thank you very much. Deputy Kenny, 3 questions, please, through the Chair.
Most of the questions I was going to ask have already been asked, so I just confine myself to one question. And I want to ask Ms. Connell and Mr. Neville that, it is a fact that people who are perceived as being illegal immigrants in this country are frequently subjected to abuse and sometimes to physical attacks. And is the use of language like, armadas of immigrants, people who come here and giving 2 fingers to the state, and talking about people from sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, does that language lead to situations where people are either physically attacked or verbally abused?
Okay, Mr. Connell or Mr. Neville.
Okay. Deputy Kenny, if I may go first. I can't find how you can possibly object to a term like Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa. They're geographical descriptive terms. I mean, we'd have no geography taught in our schools if those terms were banned or deemed to be abusive or leading to abuse. So, okay, I don't think that's a terribly important point. The situation can arise in any jurisdiction where there is not a contrarian opinion expressed in Parliament through elected representatives that seeks to give some representation to the concerns of populations in general in the country as to what is happening all around them. The single biggest change that has happened in Ireland since I was born in 1957 is that 20% of the people now living in the south of Ireland were not born here. That's the real figure. That situation is quite astounding. It was never the policy of any party or platform or Ardèche or annual conference or whatever they're called that any party ever had that they announced, hey, great idea. We're going to change the demographic of Ireland. We're going to, by one means or another, allow 20% foreign populations to live here. Meanwhile, 50,000 young Irish people will leave annually simply to acquire a job, which is what is happening. And Ireland, in a very short period of time, would have a population whole, not maybe entirely dissimilar to Russia post-World War II, where that whole generation of football players and soccer players and young apprentices and skilled people are not here. They're in Australia, they're in America, they're in Canada. Now, I don't think it's a particularly mature situation for a country to turn a blind eye to that just once they're gone on the plane and forget about them. And you have to face hard facts. In a country where we have 350,000 unemployed people or whatever, to continue to import a workforce from other countries whilst our own people are emigrating and whilst our own people are unemployed and unable to seek gainful employment, or perhaps being forced to work at rates that have been artificially driven down by the influx of people who are quite happy to work for very much less in pay. That is the situation that has not been represented in our Parliament. It then falls to a few people like us, and we are the contrarian opinion, granted, and some people might not like the contrarian opinion. But can I just draw one analogy very briefly, if I may, Mr. Chairman? There's great plaudits and credits and interest being expressed at the moment in the banking inquiry about people who did offer a contrarian opinion. I'm just making a principal point, not an exact comparison. It is now thought that it would have been a good idea, perhaps, if we listened to those contrarian opinions, whether they were liked or not at the time. All I can say to you and all members here, Deputy, is that it would not, perhaps, be an undue indulgence to give us that you would consider our contrarian opinion, that it has basis, and that, as the Deputy who was just left, who very kindly remarked, it is the position held by the majority of Irish people as expressed in various opinion polls. We have stood for election. Unfortunately, yeah. Deputy McGrath.
One time, please, and through the chair, Deputy
Many
McGrath.
votes.
Deputy McGrath, please, if you want to come in and give a question, you can. Please, no heckling, okay? Thank you. Please,
okay, Deputy McGrath, I can tell you exactly.
Sorry, no, Deputy McGrath.
He's getting a long run there now. He's getting a long run there. We have got 3 questions each.
You can come back in a minute, as you know, if you wish.
No, I'm next, Chairman.
You are,
sorry,
of course,
sorry,
when you're finished. And he knows that, so please now. A bit of order, please.
I'll finish briefly.
Thank you.
I can finish briefly. Deputy McGrath knows that I was not elected. I went for election, and everybody who goes for election puts their platform before the people. I will say this. Irish elections are held in one particular context. They're held in the context that immigration is not discussed. There's a vow of silence taken by at the risk of upsetting anybody, every deputy here, you take a vow of silence before every election not to discuss immigration. It's painted up as not discussing racism. What is...
That's rubbish. No, we don't do sectarianism and racism. Yeah, we don't do those.
No. One voice.
I would like to because what are you saying? I would like him to withdraw that. I had to withdraw my statement earlier on. He can withdraw that. Where is the proof of that? Where is the proof that I have that I have signed, that any member here has signed a pledge? That's absolutely ridiculous.
You can come in a moment.
It is ridiculous.
And ask a question if you wish, but order now, please. From everybody.
Go on.
From everybody. Thank you. Please continue.
In your mode.
Sorry.
To finish the Deputy McGrath's legitimate question, I was making the point.
It's actually Sean.
Deputy,
It was my question, actually, to the Chair, which hasn't been answered at all.
Please.
That's getting upset.
Sorry, Deputy, can you ask the question?
I'll answer the interruption if that's what it was.
No,
Look,
no interruptions. I want to encourage more interruptions.
But I would... I could... Okay, no.
He asked the question and he has the floor.
Yes.
Question, Deputy Kenny.
I got no answer. You didn't answer the question I asked you about the fact that people are being physically attacked and racially abused.
I did.
Because of the use of the kind of language that were used by you, and you haven't addressed that in your answer whatsoever.
I did address, but perhaps not to your entire satisfaction.
You didn't address it at all.
I know. Sorry.